Hey fellow tankers, Mobius Y here with another World of Tanks console video. Today is yet another map drive, and by request we're taking a look at Ghost Town. Now Ghost Town is one of the most unique maps in the game in that it is pretty much completely symmetrical. It's not 100% symmetrical, as the terrain on either sides of the map will be different, but for the most part the building layout in the central town area is largely the same on either side. So I've got my clanmate Fishing Master 99 on the other team. Appreciate him taking the time out of his day so that I can run this training room to show you guys some key locations on Ghost Town. So here on Ghost Town, as you can see, the spawns on standard battle start off in the top right and bottom left corners. And on encounter battle, the flag will actually be right in the very middle of the map, encompassing the E5, E6, F5, and F6 areas. So depending on what kind of game mode it is, the battle will likely pan out fairly differently. Normally on Ghost Town, I would strongly recommend that you work your way on the outside, control the outside flanks of the town area along these areas, and then start to work your way in. Because this map is so symmetrical, it's very easy to identify and set up flanking maneuvers where you can come in at the side of the main forces of the enemy team. So typically at the start of a game on Ghost Town, your scout tanks will probably be rushing along to these corners here in the top left and bottom right, just to try and set up initial positions and set up some spots to identify who is going where. Now you're not going to spot the entire enemy team, as a large force of them will be going into these parts of the town here to either battle it out for the center flag on encounter, or just to try to set up and hold locations that are key for controlling the map area, or the central town area of this map. As you can see, the south side outside the town, there's not a heck of a lot of hard cover terrain there. And it's a very similar story on the north side. It's not, as I said, it's not 100% identical, but it is very similar. There are some small hillocks and ridges that you can use outside the town on the east-west areas, like over here and over here, where you could possibly send up ambushes or even just look for some nice hard cover opportunities to help protect that part of the map. So I'm going to go to the top left corner here on Ghost Town. I'm going to show you a nice little spot. So in retrospect, this location should be a pretty equally usable area as this location down here. As you can see, the map is pretty much symmetrical, not just north-south, but east-to-west. So if I'm highlighting a nice spot on one side of the map, it's a good bet that it is a similar story on the other side of the map. So personally, what I usually like to do when I first spawn into Ghost Town, if I'm in a faster tank, I like to come down to this kind of area here, especially if I'm in a light or a medium tank. This way I can get some spots, see if there's anybody crawling up along the outside of the map here, or just along the edges of the buildings, like this part of the town over here that I just fired at, coming up along B7 that I just pinged, or up in this area over here, trying to work their way into town. It's a really nice area. If you work this terrain just right, you can even get a tank with crappy gun depression to work to actually get some shots into people if they have their turrets turned away from you, or if they're simply turning their side armor to you because they're dealing with friendlies in the town area. The problem with this location is it is very vulnerable to artillery. So if somebody deems you a threat, or if you're one of the first tanks spotted on your team, expect to get bombed by artillery if there is artillery in play in this game. Now, working our way through the streets here on Ghost Town, there's actually a couple really nice spots in the very center of the town where tanks with good turret armor and decent gun depression can really do some serious work, especially some heavy tanks. You can set up on this little area here, on this slope that I am driving back and forth on now. You can actually pull up just enough where you only have your turrets showing. Unfortunately, I'm in the 54 lightweight, so the gun depression is atrocious, but something like even a Conqueror or a T-29 could actually be fairly effective in this particular location. You can set up right up along this kind of retaining wall here if you have enough gun depression to look over, so that you can work on this side over here, but you do still have to watch for any shots coming from the middle. And if you're more worried about the middle, you can hug the building to your left over here, so that way you can keep your turret pointed towards any enemies that you're trading shots with, either on this side of the buildings over here, or even this part of the map over there. So another nice little hull down spot, well, pseudo hull down spot. It's not quite as good of a location because the sloping is a lot more shallow. So tanks with not as good gun depression, something like a T10 even, could actually use this location here to either shoot across this very center of the map here, where the flag would be on encounter, over into this gap here if anybody's trying to brawl in that corner. You also have to watch for any enemies coming up on your right-hand side here if you do not have your own friendlies holding that corner. So as I said, those locations can be utilized from the other side of the map, as this map is, for the most part, very symmetrical. As I said, it's not 100% identical, but it is close enough where any of these spots that are used on one side, you can easily use them on the other side here. This is another little spot where you could sport something with good turret armor. It's a little trickier to use because in order to come up far enough to have shots down past this rubble pile, that rubble pile there that I just shot at, to get shots past there, you do have to pull up pretty far and expose yourself. But if there are any enemy tanks that are kind of over here, or even using this gap right in front of us, trying to shoot through it, you could get shots into the side of their turret and whatnot. So because this map is so very symmetrical, as I said, it's very easy to set up for flanking opportunities, and you really have to watch for that when you're in the middle here, brawling it out with your heavy tanks. As mediums will, and lights in particular actually, will largely start, as I said, on the outsides of the map, even up against the outskirts of the town there, using the outermost buildings for cover, and they will likely start to work their way in. And as they start to work their way in, then it's basically just the jaws will have started closing around you. Now, something I want to indicate here that a lot of people like to do on this map, especially if you spawn in the south section over here, this hillock thing up here in K3, a lot of people like to pull their tank up here and camp on it. So that's really something you need to watch out for. People in glass cannons like Borsigs, they love to come up here and just camp it out for the whole game and hope that a stray enemy comes along this way. So you need to be wary of that. If you're in an artillery piece, you might want to consider turning your gun this way if you are on the other side of the map. Turn your gun over this way. Probably watch for tracer fire. There's a very good bet that somebody's going to bring their tank up there to just kind of camp it out and try sniping. Now, as for the other side of the map, right up here in the A8 sector, not 100% sure if you can get up there. I haven't really seen anybody go up there myself, but considering most of the time that I play this map is in either clan practice or some kind of competitive format, clan match more or less, those locations aren't really utilized very much in a tournament kind of format sort of deal, either when we have a clan practice or when we have a scrim against another clan. So I'm not 100% sure if somebody can get up here. It doesn't look like it. I'll do a quick cruise around the other side there just to double check and be sure. It looks like the sloping on this hill is a lot steeper and more difficult to get up there anyways. So it is what it is. Now, when you're actually going in for a flag cap to try and cap out on the win, it's very difficult to find cover on these flags. The best you can really do is just get in the lowest point of ground possible. For example, right here where I am, you're right on the edge of the flag so that you can hop off if your team is able to go for the last couple kills and secure a win that way. But honestly, this is still very exposed. And it's this very similar story for the flag on the south side of the map there. There's not a heck of a lot of hard cover. There's not a lot of objects in the way to try and hide behind. And the terrain is extremely flat. Extremely flat, sorry. There's a couple small ridges, really small ridges. So a more low-profile tank could go sort of hull down. But as I said, it's very difficult to find cover at those particular points. One little kind of special point here is these corners here, this one that I'm driving up on here in D7 and the other one over here in kind of G4. These locations here, the problem that I have with utilizing these corners is you don't really have an escape. They can be a pretty handy corner to fight on if the enemy is not able to flank you very easily. For example, you could side scrape off of this corner and fight it out with these guys that are coming up around this side, for example. Or if they're even still a little further back, you could use this corner right up here, try and set up a nice side scrape. You could even fight with people in the middle, pulling back further along this rubble pile against the side of the building, using that for a piece of cover and whatnot. And you will see a lot of people go up to these corners. They're pretty good spots to hide with an autoloader and just wait for the opportunity for a couple enemies coming around either this corner up here that I just fired at, or even on the low side down here on the low side when they commit around the corner. This is actually a pretty good spot to hide your autoloader. But the problem is, as I said, there's no real escape aside from the ramp that leads up into this area, and on the other side of the map, the ramp that leads down into this area. Apart from that, if those particular escape routes are cut off, then you're in serious trouble there. Now, in the very middle of the map, as I said, the encounter flag is basically right here. It does encompass these, I don't know what to call this funny kind of construction zone here. And these cylindrical concrete cylinders here can actually block an HE shell, for example, if somebody's trying to shoot you with an HE shell to reset the cap. But they're not really a reliable piece of cover or anything like that. The only real hard cover is this giant mass of bricks right here in the very center, and the crane directly next to it. It's the only piece of cover you have, and even if you're utilizing it to the best of your ability, again, this map is very easy to get flanked on. So you got to be very careful. You got to pay lots of attention to where the enemy is. If you're going for some cap pressure in an encounter battle, you got to make sure you know what you're doing. You could even use this hole here to try and poke out and fight with somebody on that corner right over that way, and see if you can get into a battle. It will put you in a pseudo hull down position for a lower profile tank, but it's not a very ideal piece of cover. And even if you were to hide yourself right here in this spot and kind of side scrape on this corner here to deal with anybody that could be right in front of you, you still have to worry about anybody coming from that little ridge right there that I pointed out earlier, or if the enemy team is able to push up around this corner here due to lack of your own reds kind of holding that corner there. Very easy to get shot up in the side. Very easy to find locations that you can go to get these side shots. So the big thing on Ghost Town is to just keep an eye on your map. You want to look for where the enemy team is situated, more or less, and you want to look for those openings where you can get in the sides. It's very easy to do that because these big buildings block line of sight. So long as you don't hang too close to a building where there's an enemy on the other side and they proxy spot you, it's actually very easy to sneak around. Even in the slightly more mobile heavy tanks or tank destroyers, it's very easy to sneak around and catch somebody unsuspected and put an extra shot or two into the side of their turret or into the back of their hull even. Now, a couple spots that people wind up using pretty often on the outskirts as well, utilizing the buildings here. One place that I have actually used before is just over here in the top left corner, the northwest corner. There's a little something I do want to show you with this corner here, actually. And this is one thing that absolutely annoys the crap out of me in terms of map design. These funny little shacks here, they will block your shot. They're indestructible. And I have had so many shots from this corner over to that corner right there that did not go through because the eaves, if you try to shoot under the eaves of this shack, it still blocks your shot. Like it's really irritating. So it's a really minor kind of thing to point out in the map, but in my opinion, it's really kind of important to make you guys aware of it because I have tried so many times to get a track shot in this tiny little gap right here, and it doesn't work all the time because the hitbox of this little shack is not 100% identical to the visual kind of aspect of it. So you can kind of sort of use that shack as a little piece of cover and be a little bit more bold with any side scraping you have going on around this corner. But if somebody's side scraping on the other corner over there where Fishing Master is, they have a bit of a better position to do it because this rubble pile extends out a little bit further and helps protect the lower parts of their hull a little bit better. So you can side scrape on this corner, going this way, or even set up a side scrape, or just kind of a hull down position over here. Play a little peekaboo with somebody on that corner right up there that I just fired up, for example. And again, it's another location that you can use on this side of the map right here. So I think that that more or less covers it. I believe I actually covered more than I initially intended to. But as I said, the key spots that you need to worry about, you can bring tanks with good turret armor or gun depression. If you bring them to these kind of gaps here in the central diamond location, those are pretty good spots to bring them to. Over in B1 and J0, behind those big kind of sand mounds, those are pretty decent spots for faster tanks to set up and see if you can, well, particularly mediums, see if you can set up some side shots on anybody on the very outskirts of the map, either in the very north or the very southern sectors. But as I said, it's very easy to get flanked on this map, and it's also very easy to set up a flanking maneuver on this map. So keep an eye on your mini-map, and keep an eye on where all the enemy reds are spotted if they're lit up on the map. So once again, thank you to FishingMaster99 for spending the time allowing me to make this video. I really appreciate it. And thank you to you, the viewers, for watching this video. This has been Mobius Y. Hope to see you on the battlefield or in my next video. And as always, happy tanking.